here's my round of applause for you because that's incredible.
Cheers to you too, man. Just chasing you.
Ah, so how are you, my friend?
I'm doing phenomenal. How about you?
I'm doing great. So I wanted to kind of start here. I know you're living out in Columbus, Ohio, and you kind of bounce back and forth between there and Montana. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay. So you started with FFL. It was last April, I believe, right?
Last April, I started contracting. Yep.
Okay. So the fastest FFL producer to hit the Hall of Fame, you hit it by how many months? 4 months, 5 months?
So November. I went
Wow.
full time with FFL in June. And that's when I did the bulk of that. That
Incredible.
6 month period there.
Gotcha. Okay. Now you had worked in insurance prior with it with another IMO.
Yeah. So it was a captive.
Okay.
All captive.
How long had you been doing insurance?
Coming up on 3 years.
Awesome. So you saw the opportunity here, kind of saw what we had to offer. How did it compare to what you were doing?
Completely night and day. I mean, to get the client acquisition to begin with was number one. I mean, we couldn't just buy leads, buy clients, call them up, set appointments, right? So cold calling, door knocking, beating the streets, getting clients to get in front of you any way possible.
And what was your best year doing
that? Like income wise was like 120.
Okay. So you were no stranger to door knocking because you had to do it to survive.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So now that you're a VP and you get that agent that says, oh, these leads suck, what do you say to them?
You can get free leads if you want. There's a block right across the street from your house. So just go hit those houses.
I love that. That's awesome. So what I really want to start with is the schedule, right? Because to write 278K in 3 months, you have to have a crazy intentional schedule. So what does your week look like?
Man, I always like to start dialing at 7:30 in the morning and not lift my head until at least 11:30. You know, then you can get some additional training in, then you can talk to some new agents at that time. And then if you need to, if you don't have the bulk of your 2 run days filled in by 11:30, I'm probably not going to stop till 1:30. Right. And then I take about a 2-hour, 3-hour break if I need to, whatever time is permitted based off my schedule and how many appointments I currently have to set up enough time to be able to come back and fill it. So at least 30 appointments a week.
Okay. So non-negotiable 30 appointments running 4 days, doing it in 4, or do you kind of knock it out in 3?
I like to throw a couple power weekends in there, especially if I'm going to be contending with you, man. So I can run, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 30 appointments in a 3-week time period, come back, dial Monday for Tuesday, Wednesday, see what happens. Those are always big weeks.
Do you ever get tired?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm not the only one. All right, cool. So tell me about your lead spend, your lead flow, and how coming from where you came, where there weren't leads, how right off the rip you were like, hey, wow, there's leads. Let me invest probably a good amount of money into them.
Yeah, I thought it was fake. So Easton Patton was the person that brought me in, which is awesome. I went to college with him, but he basically said, hey, dude, like, here's a couple Facebook final expense websites. You can literally just upload your zip code in here and place an order. I was like, what? Are you serious? He showed me how to do that. And I fully invested everything I had, credit cards and everything, just to onslaught as many leads as I could possibly have right away.
So on average, what do you think you spend a month?
Now, between 8 to 12,000 probably.
Okay. And last month you issued how much?
107.
Okay. So needless to say, you didn't really miss the 8 to 12 to get the 107, right?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Got it. Just so for everybody that's confused about buying leads on the call. So tell me about your phone skills. Obviously, you're booking a ton of appointments, 30 a week. It takes some skill and some pounding of the phone. So just kind of break down for me how you attack the phones.
I just try to resolve every lead. I'm not fancy with my script at all. I basically call people up, verify information, tell them I'm coming over, give them 2 time spots. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. On to the next one. my whole lead strategy is just to have enough leads to where I can hear a million no's and all I need is 15 yeses. Like, I don't care when they come. If I'm dialing 12 hours and it takes 12 hours to get 15 yeses, then that's my whole phone strategy right there.
Well, I love that. So one of the things you said there, and when I hear it, it's your mindset. How did you create a mindset that is almost like a reverse of what everybody else says, where everybody else is like, every lead I have to book that appointment, instead of saying, I'm looking for the 15. How did you create that mindset for yourself?
Just on my very first dial day, I mean, I sat down and just said, no matter what, I'm going to have 15 appointments, because you hear 30 appointments all the time. So there has to be some correlation to it. So I wanted to test it out right away. And it did take me 12 hours. I mean, I got done booking at like 8:30 p.m. my first dial day for 15 appointments. But I mean, that was it right there. I mean, just dive in.
Now, you have great mentors. You work with Easton, who we had on a couple weeks ago, who's amazing. You work with Zach. How much do you reach out to those guys to kind of just, get knowledge from them and help you out?
Daily. It's probably more now than even when I just started, and just in different capacities, in terms of how to speak to agents, how to mentor them, how much to drip on them, how to drip on them. Initially it was just like calling them in the phone or in the house all the time. I was not shy about that.
That's awesome. So now, how do you kind of work your schedule between the two states? Do you run other states for travel trips, or is it just the two?
Just the two right now, just because the lead flow is awesome. I just let Montana build up because there's not a lot of people there. So I just have a lot of mortgage locked out in Montana. And then I can just come out in Columbus and just pound the instance, pound the 1-month-old life leads. Everything in the CRM is gold, literally everything, if you dial it correctly. I did bounce around. I hit Boise, Idaho, hit Lincoln, Nebraska quite a bit. So I mean, constantly traveling, being from Montana, just to be able to get that lead flow that you need.
Love that. So your in-home psychology. One of the things I'm sure you'd probably say when you run 30 appointments, your in-home doesn't have to be phenomenal to close a lot, because you're sitting probably, I'd guess, with 18 of 30 on average, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just from hearing a little bit of you speak here and from another call I heard, I can tell you really understand the psychology of the client. So walk me through what Jake does in the house to take him to the sale.
First off, I don't really build any rapport. I'd rather build trust and respect than rapport, right? Because I mean, everyone has had commission breath at one point or another, and it never works out, never looks good for anybody. So I want to stay as far from that preconceived notion as humanly possible. So like grabbing control right when you walk into the house, man, that's the first thing I do, is lead them to the table. That simple command right away, they're already following my lead. From there, I jump right in, just like a doctor. I just basically show them my license. I put them on the table. If they want to look at it, they can. I just try and find a direction of why I'm there immediately. And I don't move off of that until I have a direction for the rest of the appointment. I mean, I almost approach it like I'm an Uber driver, right? And you're getting into my car. I can't go anywhere until you give me the coordinates, for the destination here. So why am I here? If it's a husband and a wife, like, is there a big income disparity? Okay, so income replacement is going to be the main focal point, because, John's been out. He's out working 40 to 80 hours a week, making 10K a month for, Mary and the 4 kids. So if something happens to John, there's literally no income, right? So I established that from the get-go, and I asked them to repeat it to me, basically. So, Bob and Mary, it'll make sense why you guys have me over right now. Huge income disparity. If something happens to John, Mary, what are you doing? Just reiterate the fact. And I still haven't even wrote anything down. I'm not even in the financial inventory. They need to understand the importance of why I'm there before I even start asking them anything and going any further than that. And then also the flip side is, like, don't forget about Mary either. right? Because if something happens to Mary, John's not going to be able to work 80 hours a week because someone's got to take care of the 4 kids, right? So it's imperative that both of you have policies today, correct? Perfect, right? And then just move on down the line. Put words in their mouth a little bit by just kind of showing them what could happen, right away. And then you got that respect. I didn't build any rapport up until that point. I literally just jumped right in, just like a doctor would. You know what I'm saying?
That's amazing, because it's almost like you're doing a financial inventory in the reverse, and you're getting the emotionality out quickly,
Hmm.
and they're not, and you can always lean on that. So you're probably not getting a crazy amount of need to think about it.
Definitely not. I mean, think about it where that's everybody's hardest objection. It's still mine. I'm sure it's still yours.
Yep.
Um, you can't always avoid them, but you can do a dang good job of setting yourself up to avoid them less and less and less. That's another thing is after we establish a direction, right? And I start jumping into the rest of this thing, I just say, hey, Bob and Mary, I'm going to give you guys my best here. I'm going to leave it all on the table for you. I'll be 100% honest, black and white with you guys. And most of my clients, when we're done with this, they feel comfortable with giving me a yes or a no response. Do you feel comfortable doing the same?
Mm, I
To
like that.
kind of address the think about it immediately.
Yeah. Teeing them up. So one of the other things on the psychology front I want to talk about with you, when you issue pay a lot of business, obviously you understand getting the right client in the right policy. So meaning, if you go meet someone who's in their 50s and they want term or what have you, and they can't get it, or whatever age frame, how do you pivot to get someone, let's say it's a whole life or a stack of whole life, as opposed to like a term policy?
Man, I just tell them why, exactly why we're doing something. I mean, I don't shy away from that at all. Like if Steve, if you and me were sitting down and you were like, hey man, you know what? I'm like 55 years old. Um, I'm, I can afford a whole boatload of insurance. I need a lot of term, but I got a stent put in a year ago. You know, I'm, we got to put a stop to that right away because you're still establishing that trust and respect. Remember, before you ask for the order, before you ask for the check, right? So I'm just going to say, Steve, that's awesome. We can get you a lot of insurance, especially if you can afford it, but we got to go about it a different way. We're going to do a bunch of stacks of whole life policies. We're going to get 30 with America, 40 with Mutual of Omaha, 30 with Aetna, maybe 35 with Aetna. We can jump over to AmAm, get you some over there. I mean, Prosperity. Just show them how you can get it and show them why you're going a different direction. Steve, you're healthy as a horse besides that stent that you got put in, last year. So that's the reason why we got to go whole life instead of term. Does that make sense? Are you comfortable with the way that we're going there? Got it. Just move right past that thing.
Yeah, I love it. You're so direct that, the agent that tries to sell on that term to try and be their friend and get them what they can't get, they're not going to issue pay what you issue pay. You get people what they can get.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's amazing. So now you're building a team, you're running business at a high clip. How do you now in year 2, because this is a hard thing for me that I'm still working on, how do you transition your schedule? Do you have staff yet? From obviously you're still going to sell at a high level, but you're building. How are you managing the two?
I've had staff, so we're currently restaffing right now, which is a good thing. In the process of getting restaffed there, but I don't know if you can totally manage it when you're rolling, so I just kind of like roll with it. I mean, if someone calls me in the house, one of the first things I do after I establish direction is I'll put the phone on the table and just say, hey, I'm helping some other agents get up and running right now. If they call, I got to pick up. It's going to be a quick 2-minute conversation. I'm going to step outside and I'll be right back. You guys okay with that? I always ask them for permission for everything if I'm in the house. But obviously, if I'm not in the house and I'm in the car or any other time of day or night, if someone's in the house, I'll pick up. I mean, it's not always going to be at your convenience, and your agents are trusting you and their families are trusting you in a way, to give them the guidance that they need to get up and going. So just got to deliver any way possible.
Love it. Doing the balancing act. I wanted to go back to, you know, you and what you write. I noticed kind of looking at the leaderboard, you, like me and a few other top producers, we kind of stay in the lane of like 4 to 5 carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that's important if you're a new agent?
There's just too much to know, man. I mean, if you come in here and you want to be an expert, you're, I mean, you could be doing this for 3 years and there's still so many products and so many ins and outs of all the products. You're just never going to get up and moving. I would just say start with one carrier, which is always America. Run America first. Why wouldn't you? And then learn how to fill in gaps for different situations as you see them, and just make sure you retain it. You know, like if you call Steve up and he's like, hey, you know what, we got to go with Aetna right now because they have COPD. You got to bank that, you know, and just be like, we have to go with Aetna for COPD. Remember that always. Write it down, write it on the back of your hand, whatever. But now you have a second carrier for a very specific situation. The same thing if you're whole life stacking people that are a little bit banged up health wise, but they can afford the coverage. You got to bank that too. I mean, you can't get everybody term, right? And you got to know what situations those fall in. But I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a miracle underwriter. I don't want to know everything. There's so many products and so many carriers out there. They're all good, but I only need a few to get the job done.
Who's your backup after America? Do you go AMAM or somebody else?
If it's final expense, man, I'm going to try and write them with Aetna.
Okay. Nice. So now back on the building front of things, what is your goal this year? Let's say personal production and for your team.
Personal production's kind of going by the wayside right now. I mean, if I have to do 800,000 plus, you know, to be able to get my team to, because that's what it's all about is, you know, helping the people behind or that you're with. If it's got to be 800,000 plus to put the agency in a position to where I want it to be, then that's what it is. And then on the agency building side of things, the volume will be there. If you set up those pillars, your leaders, you know, so I want to have 20 leaders by the end of the year. And I firmly believe those 20 leaders can translate into, you know, 100 plus agents as well.
How many writing agents do you have right now?
15. Okay. Yep. By the end of April, we should have a pretty good spike.
Were most of those warm market?
Currently, right now, none of them. Oh. None of them were warm market. I was pretty shy about sharing a lot of stuff on social media. I waited way too long to do that, which is pretty selfish to do. I fully understand that now. But the warm market wave is kind of starting to come in now.
And Easton obviously found you. You said you guys went to college together. So you saw a post that he did and you were like, let me jump on this. I'm already doing insurance.
Yes. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Are you looking at any office space yet?
Office space in Columbus, that's in the works as well. I'd be surprised if we don't have a spot here by the end of April.
Nice. Awesome. So what's something that you would give to a new agent that's just starting out, let's say, you know, didn't come from the industry or just starting out? If there was like one thing you could say, go do this to be successful, what would that be?
Dial the phones. Dial the phone straight up. Because I mean, everybody wants to know about the products right when they start, especially if you're a new agent, never been in insurance before. They're like, hey, I mean, what do I even do? Right? The first thing you got to do is get in front of people. You can't use any in-home skills. You can't use any product knowledge. You can't even call Steve for help inside the house if you're not in a house. So the first thing you got to do is crank up your activity through the roof and thank yourself later. Shorten that learning curve. Literally just invest in leads and work the crap out of them. That's number one.
I wouldn't disagree. I think you obviously learned very quickly here, like what the money making activity was, and you're not confused about it. And now you're teaching your team. So there's no doubt your team is not going to blow up, because the teams that believe in dialing the phone and do it, and they do it at 7:30 in the morning and they do it like clockwork, they win. They just do.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, anything else you'd like to drop on us? This has been amazing. Anything else you'd like to leave us with?
Man, the team that you guys are on right now, I mean, full of a bunch of powerhouses. I mean, the number one rider in all of FFL. You guys have Steve at your disposal. I would be using him like a madman. If I was a new agent, I would be bugging you so much. It's not even funny. So, I mean, you guys have great leadership. Just make sure you leverage that to your advantage and back it up with action. You know, anytime you ask somebody for advice, make sure you apply it and back it up with action. And then they're always going to come back and give you more advice.
I love it. Man, you are a killer. And I got to get out when you open your office and whatever you do, I got to get out there. I know you're doing a training, in a couple weeks out there, a big thing?
This Thursday.
Okay, got it. Next one, I'm there. Book me.
You got it, man.
Me and Stephanie too, because she lives there, so she'll be there.
Hey, let me know. I'd love to come down to Florida too.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. Anything we can do for you, we'd be glad to. You reach
Absolutely.
out.
Right back at you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thank you.